In this channel, we have had an array of peculiar people. They have been kings, queens, beggars, thieves, artists, singers, actors, and so much more. Today is no different. Today we have probably the most beautiful empress in history, Sissy of Austria. Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. We have prepared the life story of Empress Sisi of Austria, where we have used face recreation techniques and animated her to bring a sense of realness to the Empress. She was born Duchess Elisabeth Amalie Eugenie in December 24th, 1837, in Munich, Germany. Empress Elisabeth was born into the royal Bavarian House of Wittelsbach. She was a sibling to 7 brothers and sisters. She had a lively childhood, growing up to riding horses and climbing mountains. Her father was Duke Maximilian Joseph, who people claim to be an eccentric person with very progressive democratic ideas. He supported pacifism, which was uncommon for royal people at the time. Her mother was Princess Ludovica, a known person for her rebellious personality and a disdain for public duties. On April 25, 1854, the young Elizabeth was married into a major European royal house. She was 16 years old at the time and was wed to old Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria. At the time, he was the absolute monarch of the largest empire in Europe, excluding Russia. Elizabeth was described as a melancholic, shy, and fearful bride, which is understandable for a girl that was only 16 years old at the time of her marriage. The wedding festivities had thousands of people cheering and lining up in the streets of Vienna to see who the wife of the emperor was. Before making her way to her new home in Hofburg Palace, Sisi was reported to have been crying on her carriage on the way over. She was afraid and overwhelmed by the whole situation, and her entrance in the public life was one of the unusual. It was not ideal, and this luck followed her along her reign. Sisi's husband, Franz Joseph, was a man of many talents. He was hardworking and dedicated to his wife. Sadly, he did not possess any charm and could not win his wife over. This marriage was not meant to be. The couple's mothers had planned for Franz to marry Sisi's older sister. But Franz had been magically attracted by Sisi the second he laid eyes on her. Sisi's shyness did not improve as the time went on, even when she had to face the reality of public life. Her introvert persona was no help at all, and she developed an eating disorder. Most of the time she was isolated in a room, completely alone. She blessed the emperor with 3 children. Only 2 of them survived: Crown Prince Rudolph and Archduchess Gisela. Even after 4 years of marriage, her hatred for public life never faded away. This was seen as a childish trait by other people at the court, especially Joseph's mother, the amazing Archduchess Sophie. However, despite the restraints Sisi held to the public life, the people still loved her. Sisi was a very beautiful woman with long chestnut hair. She was an idol to young girls and a heartthrob to boys. She compared herself to a dancing monkey, although she was not naive to her beauty. Most obsessed of them all with her beauty was Sisi herself. She spent hours maintaining her looks. 3 hours every day were dedicated to her hair, 1 hour to pinch her figure and keep her waist only 19.5 inches. Sisi lived on a strict diet. She used to exercise. Her diet this day can be called anorexia, the refrainment of oneself to eat. In her early days, the empress would only eat thin broth. Later, she would eat only raw milk, oranges, and eggs. It was reported that the Empress would travel with her own cow. Sissy bathed herself in olive oil. She'd wash her hair with a combination of eggs and cognac. She prepared her own beauty compounds and creams, and her most favorite one was Cream Celeste, which consisted of white wax, almond oil, and rose water. She believed that this product could preserve her youth. Her exercises were horseback riding, fencing, and hiking. The Empress had adapted exercises from the circus. She would lift dumbbells and even train on rings. When she would do the circus exercise, she would wear a black silk dress with a long train, with magnificent ostrich feathers, which would make her look like a bird. Her beauty was not only on the outside, she was an intellectual. Sissy used to write poetry where she would express her frustrations and regrets. In 1862, to reasons unknown, Sissy had a nervous breakdown. It resulted in her spending as much time away from the Hofburg's palace as possible. She would regard it as the prison fortress. Her time away was spent traveling to various places, such as Greece, England, Ireland, Switzerland, and Hungary. She had written that she always wanted to be on the move, and how seeing ships sail away would fill her with an overwhelming need and desire to be on them. Her rebellious trait would be shown in the early years of her reign. She had grown an affection and obsession over Hungary, which at the time was an oppressed country and its people didn't have much freedom. The Empress would work together with the handsome Hungarian statesman Gyula Andrássy. And to annoy the Viennese aristocracy, Sissy hired almost all of her personal staff with Hungarian nationals. Fortunately, in 1867, Hungary became an equal partner in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Franz Joseph was crowned king and Sissy became queen. Finally, the Hungarians were given their promised freedom. It was only then when Sissy allowed Franz to sleep in the royal bed, where the couple would welcome their last child, Marie Valeria, born in Budapest in 1868. Because of her contribution to the cause, she was beloved by the Hungarian people. And she grew to love her role as a comforter, and soon started filling her shoes in the role by going to hospitals and charity wards unannounced and almost all alone. And she would not hold herself in a high regard at all. She was seen as a down-to-earth person, talking with everyone equally. She'd hold people's hands as they were dying, and would talk to them for hours, listening to their needs. She was described as an angel of mercy. Her time spent in hospitals grew her an interest. She spent hours in the psychiatric ward and was amazed by the new ways of treating the mentally ill people. She was an opinionated person and would claim that in Shakespeare, the madmen are the only sensible people, which only paints an image to who she was. Unfortunately, by the 1880s, Sissy started longing from a serious mental illness. Her youngest child, Marie, would state that she found her mother laughing hysterically in a bathtub. The Empress would scare Franz Joseph by talking to him about suicide, which pushed the Emperor to seek treatment in psychics to cure her mental illness. Tragically, in 1889, her son was found dead in a hunting cabin in Meerling with his mistress. This did not do any good for Sissy's mental health. She would only get worse. Their death was a mystery, and there was a lot of theories going around. In the end, it was concluded that Rudolph shot both of them in a murder-suicide pact. The death of the only heir to the throne resulted in the throne being passed to Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who would lead the world to the First War, but that's a topic for another day. The beloved, heartbroken Sissy dropped everything and went down on a spiral, including even her weight. She dressed all in black and aimlessly traveled the world. Without any police protection, she would seek death in dark corners of unknown streets. She would say that she's going to travel the whole world until she is drowned and forgotten. At the age of 51, she got a tattoo of an anchor on her arm. Tragically, her end came in September 10, 1898, when the Empress was visiting Geneva under an alias. Coincidentally, in town there was an Italian anarchist, Luigi Lucchini, who was in Switzerland to assassinate Prince Henry of Orleans. The news of the Empress' arrival went around, and when Lucchini had found out that the prince had cancelled his trip, he decided to compromise. Sissy was approached while walking along a dock to board a ship. She felt a blow to her chest and initially thought that she was punched, but then found out that she was stabbed and collapsed soon after. And even though medical help was called, she died of internal bleeding. The stab pierced Sissy's already heartbroken heart. She wrote in her memories that she loved, lived and wandered through the world, but she never reached what she strove for. That's all we had for today. If you guys enjoyed and want to see someone else's life story, let us know in the comments. Have a nice one.